What you're about to witness is absolutely insane, and I'm not even exaggerating when I say that this might be the most shocking, controversial, and downright explosive moment in WWE history. And if you think I'm being dramatic, just wait until you hear what went down just minutes ago on Smackdown, because Cody Rhodes, the man who literally told the entire world that he was done with WWE, the man who stood in that ring last week after losing to Drew McIntyre in what can only be described as an absolute war in the 3 stages of hell match, the man who looked broken, defeated, and completely finished, just showed up backstage and unleashed absolute hell on Drew McIntyre in a way that nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, saw coming. Now, before we get into the absolutely insane details of what happened, I need you to understand something really important here, because this isn't just about a surprise attack, this isn't just about Cody Rhodes coming back after saying he was quitting, this is about the fact that WWE might have just pulled off the greatest swerve in modern wrestling history, and if you don't hit that subscribe button right now, you're going to miss out on all the breaking news, analysis, and exclusive coverage that's about to come flooding in over the next few days, because trust me when I tell you, this story is just getting started, and what happened tonight is going to have massive, earth-shattering consequences that will ripple through the entire WWE landscape for months, possibly even years to come. Let me take you back to last week for just a moment, because you need to understand the full context of why what happened tonight is so absolutely mind-blowing and controversial. Last week on SmackDown, we witnessed what many people are calling one of the greatest matches in SmackDown history when Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre went to absolute war in a 3 stages of hell match that had everything you could possibly want from a wrestling match. These two men beat the living hell out of each other through a traditional match, then a street fight, and finally a steel cage match, and by the time that final bell rang, both men were completely destroyed, broken, bleeding, and barely able to stand on their own 2 feet. But it was Drew McIntyre who emerged victorious, and the look on Cody Rhodes' face after that loss was something that will haunt me forever, because you could see in his eyes that something inside of him had broken, that the weight of coming so close to victory but falling short once again had finally crushed his spirit in a way that we had never seen before. And then came the announcement that absolutely shocked the entire wrestling world, because Cody Rhodes, with tears streaming down his face, with his voice cracking with emotion, announced to the world that he was done, that he was quitting WWE for good, that he couldn't do this anymore, and that Drew McIntyre had finally broken him in a way that nobody else ever could. The wrestling community absolutely exploded with reactions, with some fans saying they understood and respected his decision, while others were calling him a quitter, saying that the American nightmare had become the American disappointment, and social media was absolutely brutal in the way that only wrestling fans can be brutal, with people questioning whether Cody had what it takes to be a top guy, whether he was mentally weak, and whether his entire WWE run had been nothing but a massive failure. Now fast forward to tonight, and I want you to imagine the scene backstage at SmackDown, because nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, expected to see Cody Rhodes anywhere near a WWE building ever again after what he said last week. Drew McIntyre was backstage, probably feeling on top of the world after defeating Cody Rhodes and seemingly ending his career, talking to some producers about his next move, maybe thinking about who his next challenger would be, completely relaxed and unsuspecting of what was about to happen. And then, out of absolutely nowhere, like something out of a horror movie, Cody Rhodes appeared from the shadows and launched the most vicious, brutal, and unrelenting assault that we have seen in years. I'm talking about Cody absolutely losing his mind, attacking Drew with a steel chair, smashing it across his back over and over again, hitting him so hard that the sound echoed through the entire backstage area, and you could hear people screaming and running to try to break it up. But Cody wasn't done, not even close, because he threw Drew into equipment cases, slammed his head against concrete walls, and continued to pummel him with closed fists while screaming things that we couldn't even make out because the rage in his voice was so intense and so raw that it was almost frightening to witness. Security tried to pull Cody off of Drew, but he fought them off like a man possessed, like someone who had absolutely nothing left to lose, and that's when you realize that this isn't the same Cody Rhodes we've been watching for the past few years. This is something different, something darker, something that has been festering inside of him ever since that loss last week, and maybe even longer than that. Think about everything Cody has been through. Think about how he left WWE the first time, how he had to go prove himself on the independent scene, how he became one of the biggest stars in wrestling outside of WWE, how he helped create All Elite Wrestling and was part of something revolutionary, only to come back to WWE with this mission to finish the story and win the championship that his father never won. And yeah, he accomplished that goal, he became WWE champion and had his WrestleMania moment. But what happened after that? He lost the title, he's been struggling to regain that momentum, and then Drew McIntyre came along and absolutely destroyed him in a way that exposed every single weakness that Cody had been trying to hide. The loss last week wasn't just a loss, it was a complete and total destruction of everything Cody thought he was, and when he said he was quitting, maybe part of him really meant it, maybe part of him really was ready to walk away and never look back. But here's what makes tonight so absolutely fascinating and so incredibly controversial, because Cody didn't walk away, he came back, but he came back as something completely different. He came back with a vengeance, with a rage, with a darkness that we have never seen from him before, and the way he attacked Drew McIntyre wasn't just about getting revenge for the loss last week, it was about unleashing years of frustration, years of doubt, years of people questioning whether he belonged at the top of WWE, and years of carrying the weight of his father's legacy on his shoulders. When Cody was beating down Drew McIntyre tonight, it wasn't just a physical assault, it was a statement. It was him saying that he's done playing by the rules, he's done being the good guy, he's done trying to live up to everyone's expectations, and he's ready to do whatever it takes to prove that he's not broken, that he's not finished, and that Drew McIntyre made the biggest mistake of his life by thinking that he could end Cody Rhodes' career. Now let's talk about the reaction backstage, because according to multiple reports that are coming in as we speak, the entire locker room is in absolute chaos right now. Nobody knows what to make of what just happened. Nobody knows if this was planned by WWE management or if Cody went completely off script, and nobody knows what the consequences are going to be for this attack. There are reports that Triple H was absolutely furious when he found out what happened, and there are the reports saying that this was exactly what WWE wanted, that they knew Cody was going to come back and they orchestrated this whole thing to create the most shocking moment possible. But here's what I think is really going on, and this is just my opinion based on everything I've been hearing from my sources. I think Cody Rhodes snapped. I think something inside of him legitimately broke after that loss last week, and when he said he was quitting, he meant it in that moment. But over the past week, as he sat at home, as he watched the wrestling world move on without him, as he saw Drew McIntyre celebrating and talking about how he ended the American Nightmare, something changed inside of him, and he realized that he couldn't let it end like that. He couldn't let his story end with him being remembered as the guy who quit after losing to Drew McIntyre. The implications of what happened tonight are absolutely massive, and we need to talk about where this is going because WWE now has several options on the table. Option 1, they could suspend Cody Rhodes for attacking Drew McIntyre unprovoked. They could fine him, they could make him face serious consequences for what he did, which would only add more fuel to this fire and make fans even more invested in seeing where this goes. Option 2, they could embrace the chaos and turn this into the hottest feud in WWE right now. Give us Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre one more time, but this time with a completely different dynamic because now Cody isn't the heroic babyface trying to overcome the odds. He's the guy who's willing to cross any line, break any rule, and do whatever it takes to destroy Drew McIntyre. Option 3, and this is the one that I think would be absolutely insane but also incredibly compelling. What if this attack tonight was just the beginning of Cody Rhodes declaring war on everyone, not just Drew McIntyre, but everyone who has ever doubted him, everyone who has ever questioned whether he belongs at the top, and we see him go on an absolute rampage through the WWE roster in a way that we've never seen before. Let me also address something that I know a lot of you are thinking right now, and that's whether this is all just a work, whether WWE scripted this whole thing from the beginning, including Cody's announcement last week that he was quitting. And honestly, I don't think it matters whether it was scripted or not, because the execution of this entire storyline has been absolutely perfect, and the fact that we're all sitting here debating about what's real and what's not is exactly what makes professional wrestling so incredible when it's done right. WWE has created a situation where fans are genuinely invested in what happens next, where people are arguing on social media about whether Cody was justified in attacking Drew, whether he should face consequences, and whether we should be supporting him or condemning him for what he did. That kind of emotional investment is what separates a good storyline from a great storyline, and what we're witnessing right now has all the makings of something truly special that people are going to be talking about for years to come. Now let's talk about Drew McIntyre for a second because this attack tonight changes everything for him as well. Drew has been on an absolute tear recently. He's been cutting some of the best promos of his entire career, he's been having incredible matches, and he finally seemed to be getting the respect and recognition that he deserves after years of being underutilized and underappreciated. The win over Cody Rhodes last week should have been his crowning achievement. It should have been the moment where he solidified himself as one of the top guys in WWE, but instead, he's now got a target on his back bigger than ever before because Cody Rhodes is coming for him with a vengeance that we've never seen before. The question now is, how does Drew respond to this? Does he play the victim and demand that WWE punish Cody Rhodes for this unprovoked attack? Does he embrace the fight and challenge Cody to one final showdown where there's no rules and no holding back? Or does he try to move on and focus on other opportunities, knowing full well that Cody Rhodes isn't going to let this go and is going to continue coming after him until one of them is completely destroyed? I also want to talk about the psychological aspect of what we witnessed tonight because this attack reveals so much about where Cody Rhodes is mentally right now. This is a man who has always prided himself on being professional, on being a role model, on doing things the right way and representing WWE with class and dignity. But what we saw tonight was someone who has thrown all of that out the window, someone who has decided that being the good guy hasn't gotten him where he wants to be, and someone who is willing to embrace his darker instincts in order to achieve his goals. This is fascinating from a character development standpoint because we're watching Cody Rhodes evolve in real time, we're watching him make choices that are going to define who he is moving forward, and we're watching him cross lines that once crossed, can never be uncrossed. The question is, how far is he willing to go? Is this just the beginning of a heel turn where Cody becomes the villain of WWE, or is this a desperate man who has been pushed to his absolute limit and is fighting back the only way he knows how, which would make him more of an antihero than a traditional bad guy? The wrestling world is absolutely buzzing right now with reactions to what happened, and social media has completely exploded with people sharing their thoughts, their theories, and their predictions about where this is all heading. Some fans are celebrating Cody Rhodes for showing fire and passion, saying that this is exactly what he needed to do to prove that he's not broken and that he's still got that killer instinct. Other fans are criticizing him for attacking Drew McIntyre from behind, calling him a coward and saying that this makes him look weak because if he really wanted revenge, he should have challenged Drew to a match face to face instead of sneaking up on him like a criminal. Wrestling journalists are scrambling to get statements from WWE, from Cody Rhodes' representatives, from Drew McIntyre's camp, and from anyone else who might have insight into what really happened tonight and what's going to happen next. The speculation is running wild, with some people suggesting that this could lead to a match at the next premium live event, while others are predicting that WWE is going to drag this out 4 months and build it up to something huge at WrestleMania. Let me also point out something that I think a lot of people are missing in all of this chaos, and that's the fact that Cody Rhodes announcing he was quitting last week and then showing up tonight to attack Drew McIntyre is one of the smartest wrestling moves we've seen in a long time. Think about it, when Cody said he was done, everyone believed him because the emotion was so real, the pain in his voice was so genuine, and the circumstances made perfect sense for someone to walk away after such a devastating loss. But by coming back just 1 week later with this absolutely brutal attack, he's created a moment that nobody saw coming, and in today's age where everything gets spoiled online and fans think they know what's going to happen before it happens, creating genuine surprise is incredibly difficult. WWE and Cody Rhodes, whether this was planned or not, managed to work the entire wrestling world, and that deserves respect because it's a lost art in modern wrestling. Now I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about what this means for the WWE Championship picture because Cody Rhodes' actions tonight are going to have major implications for who gets title opportunities moving forward. If Cody is serious about destroying Drew McIntyre and willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen, does that mean he's no longer focused on the WWE Championship? Or does this make him even more dangerous as a title contender because now he's willing to cross lines and break rules to get what he wants? And what about Drew McIntyre? Does this attack tonight put him in a position where WWE management has to protect him and keep him away from Cody? Or does it make him even more valuable as a top star because now he's involved in what's clearly going to be one of the hottest storylines on Smackdown? These are questions that we're going to get answers to over the coming weeks, but the fact that we're asking these questions at all shows how effective this storyline has been at capturing our attention and making us invested in what happens next. I also think we need to consider the possibility that this attack tonight is setting up something much bigger than just a feud between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre. What if this is the beginning of a complete character transformation for Cody where he becomes the top heel in all of WWE? What if he starts targeting multiple people, forming alliances with unexpected partners, and completely reshaping the landscape of SmackDown? What if Drew McIntyre responds by forming his own alliance with people who want to stop Cody Rhodes, and we end up with a full-blown war between two factions? The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes this so exciting because WWE has positioned themselves to go in multiple different directions with this storyline, and each direction has the potential to be absolutely incredible if executed properly. Let me address one more thing before we wrap up, and that's the people who are saying that this is too violent, that Cody Rhodes went too far, and that WWE shouldn't be promoting this kind of behavior. To those people, I say this is professional wrestling, this is what we signed up for, and if you want sanitized, family-friendly entertainment where nobody ever gets hurt and conflicts are resolved with handshakes and hugs, then maybe wrestling isn't for you. The reality is that the most memorable moments in wrestling history have come from intense, personal, violent conflicts between wrestlers who are willing to do whatever it takes to destroy each other. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mr. McMahon, The Rock and Triple H, John Cena and Edge, all of these legendary feuds had moments of extreme violence and intensity, and that's what made them so compelling. What Cody Rhodes did tonight is tame compared to some of the things we've seen in wrestling history, and if anything, it shows that WWE is willing to push boundaries and create moments that genuinely shock and surprise the audience, which is exactly what they should be doing. So where do we go from here? That's the million-dollar question that everyone wants answered, and honestly, I don't think anyone knows for sure except for the people making the decisions at WWE headquarters. What I can tell you is that Monday's episode of Raw and next week's Smackdown are going to be absolutely must-watch television because we need to see how Drew McIntyre responds to this attack, we need to hear from Cody Rhodes about why he did what he did, and we need to find out what WWE management is going to do about this entire situation. Are they going to book a match between these two? Are they going to suspend Cody? Are they going to lean into the chaos and let this play out in the most unpredictable way possible? We don't know, but that's exactly why you need to make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on, because the moment any news breaks about this situation, we're going to be covering it immediately with full analysis, exclusive sources, and insider information that you won't find anywhere else. This is the kind of moment that reminds us why we love professional wrestling, because when it's done right, when the storytelling is compelling, when the characters feel real, and when the emotions are genuine, there's nothing else in entertainment that can match the intensity and excitement of WWE. What Cody Rhodes did tonight is going to be talked about for years, it's going to be shown in highlight packages, it's going to be referenced in future storylines, and it's going to be remembered as one of the most shocking moments in SmackDown history. The fact that nobody saw this coming, the fact that we all genuinely believed Cody Rhodes was done with WWE, and the fact that he came back with such fury and violence makes this moment even more special and even more impactful. If you've made it this far in the video, then you're clearly as invested in this storyline as I am, and I need you to do me a favor right now. Smash that like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, turn on those notifications so you don't miss a single update about this developing story, and drop a comment below telling me your thoughts on what happened tonight. Do you think Cody Rhodes was justified in attacking Drew McIntyre? Do you think this was planned by WWE, or did Cody go rogue? Where do you think this storyline is heading? I want to hear all of your theories, predictions, and reactions, because the wrestling community is at its best when we're all discussing and debating these kinds of moments together. This is history in the making. This is the beginning of something that could potentially be the feud of the year, and you don't want to miss a single second of what happens next. So make sure you're following along right here on this channel, because we're going to be covering every single development, every twist, every turn, and every shocking moment that comes from this absolutely insane situation. Cody Rhodes has sent a message to Drew McIntyre, to WWE, and to the entire wrestling world that he's not done, he's not broken, and he's coming back with a vengeance that nobody can stop.